Hello,
Hello,
Dave.
Ted.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Where in the world are you right now?
I'm in San Antonio, Texas. You ever been?
I don't think I have. I spent a lot of time in Texas, but I don't think I've ever been to San Antonio. So that's your base, and you have probably have listeners all over the world.
Lucky enough to have listeners all over the world, but we do call San Antonio home, and we enjoy it very much. It's a beautiful place. You should see it sometime.
Okay, I'll put that on my should I say bucket list?
Of course, why not? Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I really enjoyed this film. I am a big horror fan, and that's no in part to also your legacy and the films that you've been on in the past. Tell us about your experience with the making the sound.
Very interesting part because I didn't do my scene until all of the other shooting was over.
Mm,
Everything else had already happened up on that mountain cliff and down at the bottom where so many people were so worried about the climbers and what was happening to the climbers and why they were behaving so strangely. Um, the other actors lived through that experience, and I met them for the first time 2 nights ago in Las Vegas at a
wow.
screening of the film in a beautiful little art house theater. Not little, nice big screen,
Sure.
great sound system. And so I had seen the sound already on a small screen with lousy computer sound, and I was I was just blown away by what I saw on that screen and what I heard in from the speakers in that theater. I hope your listeners can get to one of the theaters in 10 cities around the country and have that experience of seeing it on the big screen with a good sound system because uh, it's nice to see the sound on a big screen, but people will probably also enjoy it at home if they can't get to the theater to seeing it on seeing it streaming on whatever services they use. Yeah, the sound is, I have to say, is one. I have a tiny part in it, but it's one of my favorite films. It's so well done. The climbing of that mountain cliff is shown so beautifully with the photography and the editing and the acting. Um, I really think it's a film worth checking out, especially if you're the kind of person I think you are, Ted, who likes to have a little adrenaline, pumping through your body when you watch these horrific scenes. And they're there in the sound. It always seems it seems a little strange to me to say the movie is called The Sound because
Hmm.
we're also talking about the sound and the technical quality of it and the way it's put through you. But I think it's just watching the climbing uh, gives me that adrenaline rush, and then you add to that element the what happens to the climbers as they're
Yeah.
going up. I don't want to give it away, but as they're making this dangerous ascent on this cliff, unbelievably straight up and down, some terrible things happen to them, and that, to me, that combination of things uh, makes for a pretty good adrenaline rush. So,
It's a
yeah,
it's a great refreshing story because the horror genre, we've almost seen it all, right? But this one, there's this great little kind of double-edged sword where we are with these extreme climbers, um, and it feels like they're in this openness and this vastness, but when they're in danger, there's almost this claustrophobic feel to it because there is no escape. It's a great little dichotomy of these situations, and I love it. Do you feel like in your past, if you had ever been given a script where you could have been one of these mountain climbers, would you have taken that opportunity to be in a project like that?
If it had been a movie like The Sound, I would have said yes after reading 10 pages, probably, because the premise is so good, I think. And and I will never be a real rock climber ever. It's for one thing, it's too late for me. I don't have the strength and the endurance to do that. But yes, if if I had seen the script for a picture like The Sound, the script by Brendan Devane, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan Devane wrote and directed The Sound. If I had seen that script, I would have said yes, as long as I don't have to really climb. And they created, both in the exterior and the way they shot the film on a stage, they created what for me is a totally convincing climb by actors, and most of those actors are not climbers, but and I shouldn't even be saying this, but it's so convincing to me that when I saw it in on the big screen a couple nights ago, I was really blown away by the reality of the climbing part. And then you add, as you said, you add the element of horror, which we don't want to talk about, and it's a great combination.
This has such a great young cast in it. What did you observe while witnessing them during the scenes? You've been a part of some great ensembles in your past, also in the horror genre. But what did you observe when witnessing this team of young actors working together, having long shoots, being strung up on wires and rope all day long?
Well, I have to admit that I didn't see any of that.
Oh no,
Brendan, I didn't see any of that until I saw The Sound
I gotcha.
in
Yeah.
a theater on the big screen, and I was amazed at what the real climbers do, and also what these actors did to make it real for me as I saw it. But Brendan shot my scene in my house after everything else had been shot. That was so I had the experience of seeing the actors and the climbing and the cliff for the first time 2 nights ago, and I got to meet the actors and see how different they were from the characters that they play. It's a really fine team of actors in the film, and I'll just say one of my favorites. They're all good, but one of
Hmm.
my favorites is Radio Man. The guy at the
So
bottom,
good.
you know who I'm talking
Oh
about.
yeah.
He was terrific, and he brought the element of humor into this really scary movie. And humor is a great element in a horror film
Yes.
because it sort of releases some of uh, the tension, which can be unbearable. It releases a little bit of that tension, and then you go back to the horror of what you're witnessing. But I thought he was excellent, and I like Kyle Gass as well as his mentor. His mentor
Kyle.
who appears on screen. He's not really in that world, but
Right.
he shows up on screen, and I love Kyle Gass. He's very funny and very real in this. Part of the mystery. He's helping to solve the mystery of what horrible things are happening to the climbers.
Dave, I can't let you go without asking you about this other project you've been a part of. Just a few days ago, we celebrated the 43rd anniversary of John Carpenter's The Thing. yourself, Kurt Russell, really ignited the horror genre with this one and really showed the potential of what was possible. I know you must have a million memories from working on that project many, many moons ago, but what is sort of your fondest memory of being a part of the thing?
Well, first, let me say that I was knocked out by the script. And the man who wrote the script, Bill Lancaster, really fine writer. It's hard for me to believe that he also wrote the screenplay for Bad News Bears.
Wow.
The Bad News Bears and The Thing. That's a stretch, and I just have to give credit to him because he gave me a lot of wonderful lines.
Hmm.
And after the first draft of the screenplay, we had a rehearsal of the all of the scenes just in a room by ourselves. And the second version of the script came out after that 10-day rehearsal period, and there was a new line in the script. You got to be fucking kidding. And what a gift, right? What a
So
gift for
good.
an actor. Thank you, Bill Lancaster. And I'm sure that he was collaborating with John as they rewrote the screenplay. And Rob Bottin described what was going to happen from the body of Charlie Hallahan. And when his description was over, I think, Bill Lancaster and John Carpenter said, that's pretty amazing. In fact, you got to be fucking kidding. So, so I have to share that with with people. But it was a pleasure to work on the film. John was very flexible. He let us improvise from time to time. One of the lines that fans like is, "Hey, thanks for thinking about it, though," and which is a funny line considering what
Hmm.
the captain has just said to Palmer, and that was an ad lib. That
Wow.
was a line that was actually suggested to me by an old friend of mine named Don Calfa when we were working privately. He was helping me prepare to play the part, and he said, "Hey, why don't you say, because it's such you're being put down in such a harsh way. Why don't you say, 'Hey, thanks for thinking about it, though.' Like you're so innocent and you're so spaced out that even though he's reprimanding you, he's putting you down, you say, 'Hey, thanks for thinking about it, though.'" And John Carpenter let me say that line on camera, and he left it in. So I appreciate that part of John's directing, the way he lets actors do their do their best work, the best work they can, and captures it on film. So that was the thing. And then 40 years later plus, Brendan Devane calls me up and says, "I'm a big fan of The Thing. I'm doing a movie about which is a marriage of rock climbing and The Thing. Would you be in it?" And I had to say, I read Brendan's script,
Hmm.
The Sound, and I said yes. 10 theaters around the country, which is great. But
Hmm.
people who can't get to those theaters, I think it's tonight,
Yeah.
they can see the film at home. They can stream it on Prime or Apple or wherever they like to watch their movies. It's going to be there for them, and I hope your listeners will check it out.
I hope they do as well, and I appreciate you sharing those fond memories of working with John and the entire crew of the thing. The Sound, now out in select theaters. Check your local listings. You can also find it on video on demand. Go check it out if you're a horror fan. If you're afraid of heights, like I sort of am right now, it's a fantastic project. And David, just want to say thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today.
Thank you for bringing me on, Ted.